by the way, happy holidays, everyone. These days, you don't need an excuse to have a little get-together at your place. You want to watch the big game or a New Year's party? Whatever. Stock your party with drinks from Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. You can schedule drinks to be delivered up to 2 weeks in advance or in as little as 60 minutes. Plus, Drizzly helps you save dough by comparing prices on a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits from local stores. So grab that to-do list of yours and cross out, go to the liquor store. Download the Drizzly app today or go to drizzly.com. Again, DRIZLY.com. No more going on beer runs or stressing out about finding a particular bottle of wine. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com, the go-to app for alcohol delivery. Must be 21, not available in all locations.
Hey, I'm Kat, mom of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company setting a new standard in the supplement industry. When I was pregnant, I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and thinking, what's in this stuff? All I found were vitamins high in heavy metals and lacking in the very essential nutrients we need. So we scoured the world for the best quality ingredients, backed by clinical studies, third-party tested, and Ritual's Essential Prenatal was born. Join our family of skeptics with 40% off your first month when you visit ritual.com/podcast.
The Podcast Playground. Hooray!
Hey, it's Jeff Zito. Welcome to another episode of Celebrity Jobber. This one's going to be a good one because we'll speak to the lead singer of the band who's, has not really a rocky road. Sorry, I couldn't really spit it out right there. Not really a rocky road, but a folk singer turns to a hard rock band that then kind of pivots to pop music. And in the 80s, I'm telling you, some of the biggest songs going, like Take It on the Run or Keep on Loving You or Can't Fight This Feeling. I mean, man, major hits we're talking about here. And Kevin Cronin, lead singer of the band REO Speedwagon. I mean, was this guy meant to be a singer in a rock band? I mean, they're still touring. REOSpeedwagon.com, 2023. Still touring America. The guy's 70 years old. Can you believe it? Looking at pictures of these guys right now, they don't look 70. I mean, I know what goes on in Hollywood, but still, pretty amazing. There's hope for me yet. Anyway, Kevin Cronin, the lead singer of the band REO Speedwagon. Was music always the thing he was going to do? Did he have a backup? What was his first job? What was his big break? We're about to find out. Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon, our guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
Hey, Jeff, how are you, man?
What's going on?
Just home.
So where's home?
Home is in Southern California. We are Midwesterners at heart, but we've been out here in LA for quite a while. I went from being a Chicago boy to a California boy, but it's all good. I feel we kind of got the best of both worlds, being brought up in the Midwest with that, family first type, put in a good work week and then let loose on the weekends and have some fun. And but yeah, we have a lot of family down in the Tampa area. My wife's family lives up in the Spring Hill area. Some people in Clearwater, so we do get down to the west coast of Florida, at least a couple of times a year to visit family. We always love it down there.
That's awesome. So is there a big culture shock, Kevin, moving from Chicago to California?
Well, I'll put it this way. It was February 1973, and I got on an airplane in Chicago, probably, 20 degrees out, right? Snow, just miserable weather. Chicago's a great city, one of the great cities in the world. Weather is not necessarily its strong point. So I get on the airplane, leave Chicago in February of 1973. I arrive at LAX in February of 1973, and it's like sunny out. People walking around in shorts and, girls in bikinis, and, everybody just, I didn't know that really existed. I thought that was just something that you saw on television.
Right.
And when I got to LA, I was like, man, I love Chicago. I've got, great friends in Chicago, great music scene that I came up in, but the weather kind of won me over here. And so, here we are. But luckily, I'm on the road so much that I'm in the Midwest. We go through Chicago. Like I said, we come through the Tampa area at least a couple of times a year to either perform or to visit my wife's family up in Spring Hill.
So tell me a little bit about growing up in Chicago. Your mother and father, were they musical? I mean, were you from a musical family?
Yeah, they were music lovers for sure, and they were kind of into a Broadway musical thing. They used to perform in local community theaters, and so there was always Broadway musical soundtracks playing in the house. And my dad also was into calypso. He liked Harry Belafonte. So I used to hear all the early Harry Belafonte records around the house. So there was definitely music everywhere. But I will tell you that my first guitar, I came down on Christmas morning, and there it was under the Christmas tree. So, the first record that I ever owned, which was a 45 of the Byrds' Mr. Tambourine Man, was under the Christmas tree. So, growing up in Chicago, it's a great place to grow up. I will say that, and I'm very grateful for that combination of kind of small town family, working together kind of energy, coupled with big city cultural, artistic, musical energy, and it made me who I am, and I'm like I say, I'm lucky to have been brought up in the Midwest.
I really find your story fascinating because of when REO Speedwagon kind of formed at the University of Illinois. You weren't part of that scene right away. You kind of joined a few years after they formed. But were you in college at the time?
Well, honestly, I had, when I went away to college, it was the fall of 1969. So I was in college 69, 70. And, in those days, for those people that don't remember or weren't around yet, that was the kind of the height of the anti-war movement in America. The Vietnam War had been raging out of control, and college campuses were up for grabs, man. It was just wild. And, it was a strange time to be coming of age. And so I was not a college student when I coincidentally, the way I met Gary Richrath, I've been working on my book now for, it'll be 6 years in December. It turns out that books are a lot longer than songs. I wasn't quite aware of that when I started writing the book, but that's a whole, that's many chapters. It just in and of itself. But yeah, Gary just saw something in me. I was a folk singer in Chicago, and next thing I knew, I'm fronting a hard rock band. So go figure.
Yeah, and before you got involved with REO Speedwagon, okay, so you're doing some gigs as a folk singer in Chicago, but was that your original plan to become a musician, or did you have a backup plan? Was there something else that you were going to move into as a career?
I'm very fortunate, man, that I started taking guitar lessons when I was 11 years old, and when I was 12, the Beatles came out and played on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I just looked at that, and I was just like, oh my God, that it was. Because I love to play sports. I love basketball, especially baseball, football. I'm a fan, and I love to watch it and be a spectator. But I wasn't exactly the first guy picked in pickup games, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So I didn't have a whole lot of natural ability as an athlete. But when I picked up a guitar and started playing. Soon after I was taking lessons, my guitar teacher, who was, of course, my hero, one day he told me that I had natural rhythm, and that meant the world to me. It was like, wow, okay, maybe I'm not a natural athlete, but I have a natural knack for this instrument. And it just, at 12 years old, it was like my future was. Well, I knew what I wanted to do, and me and everyone else my age, but I was somehow able to harness what little talent I had and make the most of it and work really hard. And I just feel so fortunate to here I am at the age of 70, being able to. Every time I pick up a guitar, I'm connected with that 12-year-old kid and that wonder of, walking out on stage and the dream of hearing your songs on the radio. All those things are still as new to me now as they were back then. And so I consider myself I'm very grateful for that so many people have taken my songs and the music of REO Speedwagon into their hearts and made it their own. And man, when we come down to Tampa or Clearwater to play, it's pretty amazing because I think there's a lot of people who come from the Midwest and they resettle on the west coast of Florida. So there's a little bit of a Midwest vibe going on down there. And I always look forward to it.
There's no doubt about it. I always say that here in Florida, it seems like a melting pot of people from all over the country. But I agree with you, the Midwest for sure. And I have like a theory, and that is most of the people that settle down here, they screwed up wherever they came from, and they all pack up their bags and say, you know what, I wanna make a fresh start in Florida. And that's why we usually have so many weird headlines like a man with machete in head tries to buy a child from the dollar store parking lot and all these crazy stories that we have down here. So I agree with you, though. I think there's a lot of Midwest that moved down to the Sunshine State for sure.
Well, I was just going to say, it used to be that Key West was the place. Like you say, if things didn't go quite right for you where you were brought up, you go to Key West and you're anonymous. You start over again, and you're among friends in that atmosphere. But yeah, Florida. I dig Florida. I always just look forward to coming down there on vacation in the winter, and like I say, we enjoy playing there.
Kevin, what was your first job? Did you have a first job outside of music, maybe when you were a kid? Did you have, what was the very first paying job that you had?
First paying job I had was after my sophomore year of high school. I went down to the local mall and just went from store to store trying to get some work, and I was hired at a low-end women's shoe store. And I will tell you what, you get an education on the opposite sex real quick when you're working in a ladies' shoe store, because you have women who are sure that they wear a size 6.5 shoe, and you somehow have to, diplomatically break it to them that these 8 that you're bringing out are somehow they must have been missized to fit your feet. So you learn a lot, and no matter what you do, man, you got to look at it as a learning experience and something that's going to enrich yourself in one way or another. I mean, little known fact, but I had dropped out of college and was driving a yellow cab in Chicago. And on my fourth day on the job was when I got the call from this guy claiming to be the lead guitar player in REO Speedwagon and wondering if I was interested in joining the band. So I kind of got rescued from a career as a cabbie. Although I kind of enjoyed driving the cab, meeting people, driving around. I don't know why, but I do manage to pretty much enjoy whatever it is that I'm doing. And but boy, when you're playing music and it's something that you really enjoy, and then you get to walk on stage in front of thousands of people and hear them singing back the songs that you wrote along with you, that is a joyful experience, I will tell you.
I would imagine. And that's an incredible story. I would think that driving a taxi cab and getting the phone call from the lead guitarist of REO Speedwagon was your big break. I would imagine that would be it. But there's actually a little bit of a wrinkle in that story that I wanted to ask you about, and that was when you first joined the band. I don't know if you left or you got kicked out, but you got a second chance to come back. Tell me a little bit about what happened in the beginning stages when you first joined REO Speedwagon and you left.
Well, yeah, I was. How can we? I was. The band requested that I leave. Let's put it that way. And we were. There was just. There was always a competitive spirit between the late great Gary Richrath and myself, and I will say I'll take a minute to just say that Gary Richrath belongs in the conversation of the great rock and roll guitar players of all time. I mean, he just. I have a chapter in my book called Dances with Guitars, and that's what he did, man. He would, when he held a Les Paul in his hands, he would play it in a way that he would literally dance with it. He would spin with it. That guitar became part of who he was, and I learned so much from him. I channeled his rock and roll energy, because I was just a folk singer from Chicago. And honestly, when he called me, I didn't believe him. I was like, yeah, right, you're the lead guitar player in REO Speedwagon. It took me a while to even get him to admit that that's who he was, because when he called me, the rest of the band, nor the manager nor the record company had any idea what he was up to, and so it was a pretty wild time. And I write in the book about our first meeting, and it was pretty amazing. But what it came down to is that he was a great guitar player. He had great rock and roll energy. He was, let's face it, the guy was a stud. The girls just went crazy over this guy. And I was, a singer-songwriter. I didn't have a whole lot of rock and roll energy at that time. I was a little younger than Gary, but I was a decent front man. I was pretty good at connecting with the audience, and I wrote some decent songs, and so we kind of had what each other needed, and we had what each other lacked, and so together we were a pretty formidable force, and we made some nice music together, and people saw that energy that flowed between Gary and I. And then then of course, when Bruce Hall joined the band, he was kind of the final piece of the puzzle. And actually, Bruce, who was born and raised in Champaign, he has lived down in Florida now for about 10, 15 years. He fell in love with a Disney girl, and he still lives in the Orlando area to this day.
And those big albums that came in 1980, High Infidelity, Good Trouble, Wheels A-Turnin', obviously that period of your life changed dramatically, correct?
Oh yeah. "Keep on Loving You" was really the song that changed everything, and it was just a simple song that I wrote. Kind of woke up in the middle of the night and wrote it, and that song has just that was really the first hit song we ever had, and it went to number one, and it was just like it was surreal, and but I often get a laugh when folks come up to me in airports or grocery stores, wherever I might be, and they're like, "Oh man, thank you so much for writing "Keep on Loving You." We played that song as my wife walked down the aisle for our marriage." Wow. And I'm like, dude, I'm thinking, I don't say it, of course, but in my mind I'm going, dude, did you listen to the lyric and the verses by any chance before you chose this for your wedding song? But it is it is a song about I've been married now for 30 years, but my wife and I celebrated our 30th anniversary in April, and any long-term relationship, if you're not having some ups and downs, then it's not real. That's the way I look at it. And you go through some rough periods, man, and the trick is to be able to make it through those rough times. And man, if you can do that, the end result of it is your connection is so much stronger, and so there's a little bit of that in "Keep on Loving You" too. As dysfunctional as things are in the verses of that song, by the time you get to the chorus, it's like, all right, we're gonna make it through this, and so maybe it's that survival aspect of the song that makes people relate to it.
Can't thank you enough, Kevin. Thank you so much for the time and the great story.
Well, I appreciate I can tell you did your homework, and that is very cool when you're on this end of it. But
thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome, brother.
I am a professional. I'm not some kid in his closet, recording a podcast on SoundCloud talking about comic books. But I do appreciate it, obviously. So what did you think? I mean, I don't think Kevin Cronin was going to be Al Bundy, lady shoe salesman, although that was a pretty funny story about lying about the size of your feet. Ladies, do you do that? Come on, be honest. And I don't think Kevin Cronin was going to be a cab driver either. But how about that? Driving a cab one day. I don't know. There was no cell phones back in the 70s, so I don't know how he got the call while driving a cab. But during a time of his life when he was driving a cab, getting a phone call from the lead guitarist of the band REO Speedwagon, I'd say that's kind of life-changing. That was a big break. But there was another big break that he didn't talk about. I tried to kind of get it out. But it was, he got kicked out of the band. Okay. He started playing with REO Speedwagon in the early 70s, and he got kicked out of the band and basically said he got kicked out of the band because he wasn't showing up on time. Wasn't anything crazy, maybe other than just kind of not showing up on time, not being reliable. And they went in another direction. They got another lead singer. And then that guy left, and they were going to get another lead singer who ended up converting to Christianity, and he turned down the offer to join REO Speedwagon. That singer who became a born-again Christian, Greg X. Voles, ended up being a lead vocalist for a Christian rock band called Petra. But anyway, if that guy accepted the gig, would they ever write these great songs? I'm going to keep on loving you, and I can't fight this feeling. I don't think so. This was Kevin Cronin, and this was his second chance. He might have blown it the first time around, but he got a second chance. And to think that almost didn't happen is pretty incredible. Wow. I just gave myself goosebumps. You know, it's a certain series of events in our lives that, lead us to what we're doing now. And maybe you're just a regular person, or maybe you're a comedian or an actor or in a band or an architect or whatever. But there's a certain series of events that lead you in that direction. And sometimes those events lead you into the direction of being famous in the public eye. And those people, they're just like us, but they're kind of interesting, Anyway, I'm glad Kevin Cronin wrote some mega hits like I'm going to keep on loving you and not selling lady shoes to a bunch of liars. All right. That's enough. Please subscribe wherever you pod. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher. I'm on all of them. Please rate, leave a comment, subscribe. I would appreciate it. And next week, another episode of Celebrity Jobber. Some great guests are coming up. I don't know what order they're going to be in, so I'm not going to say who. But anyway, I'm Jeff Zito. Thanks for listening.